We are live, I tell you,
Hello.
live.
I
Hi.
am excited to talk about fanfic. And we will keep this PG rated, or at least PG-13.
We will
Um,
explain some of the terms that you do need to know so you know what you're getting yourself into when selecting fanfic.
I am not explaining ABO on a
No,
live
just
stream.
slash. We will explain slash.
Yeah. Uh, can look up ABO yourself, perhaps in an incognito browser. Um,
So I just want to say thank you real fast to everyone. We are sitting at $5,497.
oh my
And
God.
that just absolutely floored me. I was not expecting that. And it's just amazing.
I'm sorry, my cat is eating the blinds.
Oh,
Kitty emergency.
is Ophelia not Ophelia? Is what's the name of your cat, Veronica?
Oh, Olivia.
Olivia. I had the right first and
Yeah,
last.
Olivia was fed already. So unless until she gets the zoomies, I'm good.
Okay, okay. I will have Stella brought down for story time in the next segment, but we have very carefully banished her for the day otherwise.
I think that's a good idea. I just remember the one time she kind of knocked something over and it killed the stream.
Yeah, yeah.
I know one time Eddie stepped on
Power strip.
a power strip and cut everything off.
Yeah. We've
That
had
was
some
my
drama.
first CosmoQuest at your house.
It was. That was
Hey,
the
buddy.
80s themed one. That's when Ellie Star stuff was born.
Oh,
Yes, Pamela bestowed me with that name, and I've just
that's
run with
right.
it.
It's perfect for you.
I'm sorry,
Mm-hmm.
my cat's having an anxiety. Um,
Oh.
Flint has a diagnosed anxiety disorder,
Oh.
and I am his emotional support human.
Yeah, I think Flint is the only one that has his own command in Nightbot.
He's just special that way. Hey. Okay, he's
So,
just gonna
fan
be
fiction.
very cute. Yes.
So, first of all, which are your core fandoms?
Oh, for fanfic, I'm gonna just try to stick to the sci-fi ones. Um, uh, Mass Effect, very much so. Like I'm very into Mass Effect fanfic. I mean, I've got my I'm a Caden girly, which is a controversial thing in Mass Effect fandom. Um, but yeah, like I'm very into Mass Effect fanfic, as in like participate in fic exchanges and writing competitions and stuff. And that's like my big one for fanfic at the moment.
What about you,
That's
I also write a lot of
awesome.
Veronica?
Star Wars fanfic. So
Nice. I don't write fanfic anymore. I used to write quite a bit. Um, Now I mainly read like Doctor Who, um, particularly anything that outlines the rest of River Song's time with the
Oh,
Doctor.
Oh, that, yeah.
And yeah,
I love that.
but I'm more as a learning during this segment. I've looked at different ones for different things that would come along, Harry Potter and Buffy and all the different things, but
Harry Potter fanfic is wild. That is a very like just it's
yeah.
like I don't go there, but
S-
like occasionally like it, crosses my path and I'm just like y'all are on something else. Like they like
Yeah, I found one that was in a Yahoo group back when that was a thing.
Dr.
And
Erin Mack is into the Harry, or she used to be at one point, the Harry Potter fanfic.
mm,
Yeah.
oh man, I used to be on a Yahoo group for X-Files fanfic. That was fun.
So Veronica, did you ever go on GopherNet back in the day?
I
Like,
don't think so.
so there were servers you could sign into, and like there was rec.tv.sci-fi, rec.tv.bsg. There were all these different, it was like Reddit before there was Reddit. Um
Okay.
Before there was Internet Explorer or even Netscape or Mosaic. Um
Oh wow, that's really
yeah, GopherNet predates browsers.
yeah.
Um
Okay, go for net. Yeah, I've heard of that, but I never got to use it. I was still on BBSs at that time.
okay. I was in college and our uh computer labs all had GopherNet as one of the things that first came up. And then I learned about how
Nice.
at the command line you could like go to specific, yeah. And I kind of lived in fan fiction as an undergraduate. I as a middle schooler. So actually I owe who I am today to fan fiction. I have never told this story on stream.
Oh my God, she's gonna tell the
Ooh,
Battlestar Galactica story.
Uh-huh. So it was back in 5th grade. So in 2nd grade, my parents were told I would never get further than 5th grade because I was so learning disabled. And it turns out that when you give a dyslexic child a multiple choice fill in the bubble test, 3 days after she moves from California to Massachusetts, when everything is gone insane, she may not do very well. And I was that little girl who did not do very well. And so they had me in the remedial English class because I can't spell. And I really couldn't spell. And um, we were doing a spelling test, and it doesn't take very long to misspell a word. I was very confident in the I wouldn't do better if I took more time to do it category. And so the teacher would say the word, would then say the word in a sentence, would say the sentence again, would say the word. And there's a whole lot of time in there. And so I would misspell the word, grab my notebook, write my fan fiction, write my fan fiction, write my fan fiction. And of course, my teacher didn't know what I was doing, and she confiscated my notebook. And she assumed I was getting ready to pass notes, that I was doing nefarious things. And I mean, some people would say Battlestar Galactica fan fiction is nefarious, but hey, um, and so she took it, and apparently she read it, and I got bumped into honors English. There were actually, so the next year I was put into the Gifted and Talented program. And there were parents who called and complained because this stupid girl was going to be in the gifted and talented program with their kids. And there were only
This
like,
is what Pamela and I have like bonded over
yeah.
because I had a similar experience in school.
And so it turns out that sometimes all you need is a computer to fix your spelling for you, to realize you have so many words that need to get out of you, and no one had been able to read the words before. And I've been writing my entire life. Like, when my parents sold their house, they shipped me my childhood in a Mayflower truck. And going through these boxes, I found like old notebooks that had poetry and stories and all of this stuff written in it. And the spelling was, yeah, yeah,
Inventive.
it
Yeah.
was. And like in retrospect, I don't know how I wasn't diagnosed with dyslexia until 10th grade, because like on standardized tests, it was like 97th percentile, 98th percentile, 97th percentile, 13th percentile. So clearly there was something wrong with my spelling. And there was just this notion that you couldn't be capable and be learning disabled. And I broke
Hmm.
the system. And so when
Hmm.
I was finally diagnosed, I was given the choice of going back to the remedial room and getting treatment, or just pretending the diagnosis didn't exist and staying in my AP classes that allowed me to skip a year and a half of college.
Hmm. And
Hmm.
yeah, and it means that it's like when you have a learning disability, because
Yeah.
I have one as well. Or at least I don't know. No one can agree what ADHD is, but it does manifest with like learning disabilities. And it's like you end up having to work twice as hard for your good grades, and
Yeah.
it's tough.
Yeah.
And but yeah, like fanfic is what I is how like I discovered my love for writing, like as a craft.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
it's just kind of also set me on my path. And it's just like I don't know. I think fanfic is lovely because it's just very there's like kind of an anarchic quality to it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um of just like it's writing for like joy and just
Yes.
fun and with no other goal in mind. And I know like in more recent years like we do see people kicking off professional writing careers with fanfic, and that's relatively new, but the side of
Yeah.
fanfic I love is just that kind of like just writing for the joy of writing and getting to play in other people's sandboxes. And I read one description of fanfic that it's like the writing equivalent of playing with dolls. Um, that you get to take these characters and just play with them. And yeah, it does get really weird, but that's part of the fun, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of had a similar background. I was in the remedial reading until fourth grade, and I went from the lowest reading group to the highest.
Yeah.
Um, because I was deaf in one ear, where I am, and had to do speech therapy and learn how to read much later than everyone else. And because I read so slowly, I wrote a lot. And fan fiction was when I started writing for me,
Yeah.
just because I wanted to. I was out of school, I was in working or in college.
And
And it brought joy. You could share the joy that you felt about things.
and you can tell the stories that you wish could happen.
Yes.
You can collide universes. You can I remember reading a Red Dwarf meets Battlestar Galactica, and like that doesn't even make any sense. And
No, but it's beautiful, right?
yeah, yeah.
I read this
Hmm.
like, and it was like several 100,000 words, like multi-part series. It was Babylon 5 and Reboot Battlestar Galactica crossover.
Oh.
Ooh.
And I found it like, you do with most good fan fiction at like 2 o'clock in the morning. Couldn't sleep,
Yeah.
reading it on my phone,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, that sounds weird. Let me re and next thing I know, like I'm, like 10 chapters in, the sun's coming up. Like I was just so engrossed in it.
Link you need to
Um,
send to me, by the way.
yeah, I need to find it. I forget where it is. Like, and here's another thing, like AO3, Archive of Our
Yeah.
Own. Amazing website because like I come from like the days of like Yahoo groups and
Mm-hmm.
message boards
Yeah.
and then Live Journal later and like the idea of having like a one-stop shop for like all your fanfic needs that has like a robust search engine and like with like just the things you can do with like filters and refined searches on AO3 are amazing. And it's a gold mine. It's like, oh, I can just go on this website and like find exactly what I want instead of like hunting for it for days on LiveJournal.
And fan
Um,
fiction allows things that modern publishing houses and mainstream media networks don't. And this is where the idea of slash fiction comes in.
yeah. And for a very long time, like
So first somebody explain what
that
slash fiction is.
so slash fiction is just the like
Not safe
simple
for
definition.
work.
I mean, it can be, but it's basically taking like characters that are maybe like canonically straight and putting them in queer relationships. Like, I mean, the most
Okay.
famous example is Kirk and Spock,
Yeah.
right? That's actually that slash fiction was invented by Star Trek fangirls who wanted to see Kirk and Spock kiss. And just story that I can tell here because my mom will never watch this. My mom is an OG Trekkie, and when she was in high school, absolutely wrote Kirk Spock fanzines with her friends. I am
Nice.
a second generation slash fic writer, but she has told me this story once and she will never admit to it. I've tried to bring it up again. She denies it every time. So,
That that is
um,
absolutely amazing.
so yeah, slash fic has just like historically and even still now is a way of like exploring queerness in like in characters between characters, however you want to put it.
It's where
Just
Bashir and
the
Garrick would have a relationship.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, I would argue that they're canon, but that's another story.
Yeah, the ones I really remember are Xena and the
Gabrielle,
Yeah.
Gabrielle.
yeah,
Which I would argue is canon, but there are those who would debate.
it's amazing watching Xena now because people thought they were straight.
I know.
And I'm like, how? But
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. But oh yeah, I used to read a lot of Xena and Gabrielle fanfic when I was a teenager and I was still very, very closeted. And I was just like, this doesn't make me gay, just uh, anyway, like the closet is powerful.
Yeah.
Um,
It is.
and so, oh God, get off the, oh,
Flint strikes again. Oh
That's
no,
not
this
that's
was
not
actually
Flint.
Flint.
Pop Pop.
Oh,
Pop
Pop
Pop.
Pop has the best face.
He
Yes.
does. Let's see if I can get him to look at the
But then again,
camera.
I love all the
His
pets,
Oh,
so.
face
oh,
is
oh,
unique.
Hmm.
oh, you want to show everyone your face?
Oh.
Oh, he's in a mood.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so slash fiction has just been a way of like writing in like I think at its best is about writing in like queerness into stories where it doesn't necessarily exist or it doesn't explicitly exist. It may exist through like queer coding. I mean, like the other function of slash fiction is obviously to like, entertain. Um, because sometimes you have two characters that are like really nice to look at and you want to see them kiss.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's valid too.
Hmm.
Um, But it's been interesting seeing how like slash fiction has evolved now that like queer relationships in like television and movies are, or at least in television, are like more common now, or at least more common than they used to be. So it's just like it's interesting to see how that's evolved.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that you're seeing? And one of the things that I'm seeing, like, I will never be able to see Star Trek Discovery, Disco Star Trek, as anything other than the best fan fiction ever. Because
I've
it
only seen
like
the first two
doesn't sit
seasons.
in the universe quite right. It just feels like fanfic.
Yeah, I
I
argue that it does though. I think that it is I'll be interested to see like how people view Discovery in say like 10, 15
Yeah.
years because people were saying these things about DS9 when it was on the air,
Yeah.
right? And now it's
that's true.
considered like one of the best examples of Trek and people love it when that was not the case at all when it was on the air. So I'm just very curious to see like how we respond to Discovery like a decade from now.
But I'm saying this in the sense that it doesn't fit because it goes to the extremes that I wouldn't have thought the Star Trek canonical universe would allow
Mm.
Star Trek to go, which is why
And the
it
funny
feels
thing is
like
like
fan fiction.
I feel that way about DS9. I'm watching DS9 for the first time right now. Like I'd
Yeah.
never really seen it when it was on the air.
I'm so
Um,
excited for you.
it's been amazing. I'm like 4 seasons into it. Oh my God, it's so good. But yeah, like you talk about like a show like taking Star Trek like pushing it farther than you would expect. Like that show takes all the like social commentary that most of Star Trek kind of couches in metaphor and talks
Yeah.
around, and it just hits it straight on. Like does not sugarcoat it. And there's times where like characters will say things that like make, I'm like, just like shocked because I'm
Mhm.
not used to Star Trek doing that and just being so blunt with its commentary. And it's neat. And also back to the fan fiction subject, I also love DS9 because Garrick and Bashir, which are like heavily, heavily queer coded. We know now that the actors were playing it that way on purpose, but that the executive producer and the studio wouldn't, let them go all the way with that. Um, but like the fanfic, like the whole like Garrick and Bashir like fanfic community, like the loveliest people I have ever met. Like everyone has wildly different interpretations of their relationship, but everyone's just kind of chill about it. Like they're just excited to have more people contributing.
On the
Um,
diagonal in chat is like, oh, Allie, just wait for the later seasons. And then I have to read what our Instra put because, like, I now need to go find this as well. I think the most interesting slash I ever read wasn't overly overt, but it had Willow from Buffy and Abby from NCIS giving a computer database far more than it bargained for.
I need the link to that.
Yes, me too.
Need the link to that.
Yeah, yeah.
I
So,
used to
yeah.
be really into Buffy and Faith fanfic.
Oh,
Oh,
Hmm.
yeah. I can see that.
Hmm.
I can see that.
Check that out sometime, Alan. Very good stuff. So, are you telling me to wait till later seasons for the Garrick and Bashir stuff? Because I I watched Our Man Bashir, which is the like James Bond holodeck episode.
oh,
Which is
nice.
amazing, by the way. And I'm actually writing a fanfic about it, but uh it's just like I'm just like, how do people think that these two guys were just friends? Like they're like standing this close to each other and like flirting. And it's just very I feel like I'm hallucinating sometimes.
I mean, as a Gen Xer, I can safely say that we were blind to a lot of stuff. And part of it didn't help that if you did say something about someone being possibly being gay or characters, sometimes people would get offended and take it as an insult.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
So
Because
you just got in the habit of not voicing it.
Yeah. And
I
there
think
was
that's what a lot
also
of people. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
there was a danger in, you saw what happened when people either came out or were outed. And so since everyone was always in denial and anyone who got accused publicly got punished for it, it was one of these things of you had to believe that everyone was straight.
Yeah.
And
And that's
and
how you end up with stuff like, when I was like I didn't figure myself out until I was 25. I didn't come out until I was 25. So it's been a little over a decade. Um, and it was just kind of I think about like as a teenager, the whole thing about it's like, well, of course everyone likes looking at girls. That's not gay. Like
yeah.
I'm straight. I just think girls are pretty. Everyone thinks girls are pretty, right? And then, it wasn't until I was in college where someone was like, no. But it's weird because it's like I think we all forget that's like, yeah, the 90s it was a very homophobic time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
Do it.
so yeah, I mean, you couldn't like get away with that on network television, and that's why like I'm like watching DS9, I'm amazed that they like quote, got away with as much as they did.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like Andy Robinson plays Garrick like extremely queer, and it's like his very first scene, like he is like strongly hitting on Bashir. Like it is extremely obvious to me, and there's still people that are like, "Oh no."
Because we
Because
were
I think the
taught to
weirdest
be
thing is like,
blind.
yeah, it's
And this is where
and again,
fan
that's where
fiction.
like exactly that's how we ended up with slash fiction. I know like if you read up on like the history of like Kurt Spock slash, oh my God, my cats. Um, like it was to the point where it's like you couldn't talk about it out loud, and fangirls like up into like for a long time referred to it as the premise. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, and it's interesting to see how like in probably the last 10-15 years fanfic has gotten very mainstream. And it's gotten to where you can talk about it openly. Authors that got their start in fanfic are very comfortable sharing that. When it used to be that you never talked about that if you were a published author. You and it was just kind of like if you're a published author, you don't write fanfic anymore. You don't talk about that. You don't like engage with it. And now you have authors that are just like, yeah, here's my AO3 username.
And so this
Um,
is where I have to ask. So it's my understanding, and I may misreference something, that Twilight was Harry Potter fan fiction and Shades of Grey was Twilight
no,
fan fiction?
no.
Mm-mm.
Twilight was its own thing.
Okay.
And 50 Shades
Yeah.
of Grey was Twilight fanfic with the serial numbers filed off. Um, at that and I
Yeah,
have
I
read the
remember.
first 50 Shades book. Ugh. Um, but the thing is, like, that is the book that mainstreamed fanfic
Hmm.
and made it okay to talk about being a published author who got their start writing fanfic. And it's I'm just like, oh my God, do I really have to talk about this awful, awful book in a like literary history context?
No, so what I was going to ask was it good or bad, or we're still figuring that out?
What, like
It's a
fanfic getting mainstream?
yeah.
Um, I have mixed feelings about it. Like, I love that I can come on here and talk about writing fanfic and reading fanfic and be reasonably secure in the knowledge that I'm not going to get like made fun of or harassed. And that's very new. I remember like, 10 years ago, I would not have been talking about this on a live stream.
Wait, hold on. On the
Okay, so
diagonal
on the
just said,
diagonal, okay, so oh, I haven't figured out how to talk about this when without sounding like a elitist asshole. But because on the diagonal says both Paradise Lost and Dante's Inferno were fanfic.
of the Bible?
Yes and no. I feel like, and I'm saying this as someone who like heavily studied Paradise Lost and the works of Milton in an academic context. I feel like that flattens it. That just really flattens what Milton and Dante were doing. Um, and I that's like a whole, I could write a book on that. And I think that like it's like it's one of
You
those things where it's like
need
yes
to
and no.
write the book.
I know. But it just mm, I don't have enough time to get into that. It just it's flattening it. Like I don't want to like put a value judgment on it because it's like it's not incorrect to say that they were fanfic. But it's also a like massive oversimplification.
It's not the
Um,
whole story. Yeah.
no, it's not. And no one here needs to hear my whole treatise on John Milton and Paradise Lost. I'm a huge Milton nerd. Anyway,
I just
uh,
added it to my list. I'm making a list of stories we're talking about. It'll be in the book section of our Discord afterwards, just because
it's
that's what I do.
Paradise Lost is a lot. It's a lot. Um, I've read it like 5 times. Anyway, the whole idea of like whether it's like the good or bad or like how I feel about like fan fiction getting mainstreamed, I have very complicated, very mixed feelings about it. Because like I said, on the one hand, like I can come on here and talk about fanfic, and I can talk about fanfic as like a legitimate like mode of writing and a literary movement. And I love that. I love that it has like social and academic legitimacy in a way it didn't used to. Um, but the flip side of that is I feel like there's a lot of the like community aspect of it has been lost in a
Yeah.
way. And there was also that kind of that joy in doing something that was is very like um God, I'm trying to reach for the word. It was just very subversive, and so that kind of just like fun of like I'm
Yeah.
doing this like, secret subversive thing. And the and I realize like I'm romanticizing the past of like, sharing fanfic in notebooks with your friends in high
Oh
school
yeah.
and like
Yes.
whispering about it during lunch and like sharing it on like obscure live journal communities and message boards and just that very like fun underground feel to it.
Yeah.
Like we've
Hmm.
lost that, I think,
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. And I miss that. Because with fan fiction getting mainstreamed, it also means that it's like there's a lot more visibility.
Hmm.
And it's just, I don't know. It's like we gained a lot of stuff, we lost and lost a lot along the way. But
Yeah.
so it's a mixed bag. But like now we have like archive of our own.
Mm.
And the Organization for Transformative Works, which is the nonprofit that runs the archive. And like Archive of Our Own is just a small part of what they do. Because fanfic like runs into a lot of copyright issues. Um, the Organization for Transformative Works actually provides legal protection for fanfic writers.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if any of y'all were into fanfic back in the day when Anne Rice was around. In the 90s, if you posted any fanfic, like Vampire Chronicles fanfic, Anne Rice would get your ass. She would send her lawyers after you. She didn't care who you were. She would send her lawyers after friggin' teenagers, you know? Like she
Wow.
hated fanfic and would sue the pants off anyone who tried to write fanfic about her characters and just was very unhinged about it. And the OTW like protects people from stuff like that because there are still authors like that that don't want people writing fanfic about their works.
No,
Yeah,
Um,
I knew it was getting more in the mainstream when I heard published authors give their opinions on it, and some were okay with people writing about their
mhm.
characters.
It's just very much that like professional authors, they legally can't read fanfic written
yeah,
about their books because it causes a bunch of problems.
yeah.
Hmm.
Um,
Now,
but it's just nice to know like we have that safety net with the OTW and also the fact that they're like preserving entire like collections of fanfic going back to like the 70s. Um, and it's just they do so much like beautiful work with that. And part of the reason why we have that is mainstreaming, right?
yeah. Now, one of the weird things that you do hit on AO3 is there is fan fiction about celebrities and real people that isn't just alt fiction.
Yeah, RPF, real person fic.
Yeah,
It's all I can do is give you my personal opinions on
this
that.
is what I'm
Like it's
asking
one
for.
of those yeah, so it's
Hmm.
it's one of those things where it's like I don't think it should be censored. I do very much believe in AO3's just no censor, like blanket no
Hmm.
censorship policy, even though that means you get a lot of weird crap.
Yeah,
Um, but so it's like I don't think it should be censored. I personally find it incredibly off-putting. It's to bring back an old school fandom word, it's a squick of mine
yeah,
that it doesn't like, trigger any trauma or whatever. It just makes me feel icky. I don't like that,
yeah,
especially coming from a background of like having worked at conventions and having worked closely with a lot of these celebrities that people are writing about. And I'm just like, why are you doing that? It's like it's okay to have fantasies about real people, but it's like why are you sharing them with everyone?
right.
That's just my personal take. Like I know a lot of people that love to read and write RPF. I ask them to please not talk about it with me or show it to me. And so again, that's where like AO3's tagging system comes into place because you can go over to the search filter bar and you can exclude real person fic
Yeah.
and you never have to look at it. And so that's how I do that. It's one of those things. It's like I know it exists. I don't like it, but I'm not gonna, start banging drums and yelling at people to take it down. Um,
So,
but I still don't understand.
yeah,
Well, I
I kind of wish
I
there was a dead people only rule. But yes, I support complete free and open exchange of ideas.
Yeah. I just remember once me and some other English majors and I in college, we were talking about like Shakespeare's history plays. And we're like, if we write fanfic based on Shakespeare's history plays, is that like just regular fanfic or is that RPF? Technically, Shakespeare was writing RPF, right? Like we're just kind of like just
That
yeah.
is technically what alt
mhm.
history is.
Yeah. So it's just kind of it's funny and yeah, back to on the Diagonals comment about Paradise Lost and Dante's Inferno being fanfic. It's like those lines do get blurred, right? Like those lines get very blurry. And it's kind of like frustrating and also fun and
Now, Veronica was about to make a point. What was the point you were about to
sorry,
make?
Veronica.
Um, I was going to talk about my experience with fan fiction, and I was learning from you just now about RPF. And when I wrote fan fiction, I wrote some about a comedian, but it was more about they go on an adventure and it was their character on stage. And
More
um,
Jerry Steinfeld kind of.
yes, yeah. And then I got with a group that was doing it, and they were like, "Oh, we're gonna have this contest," and they wanted to see who could write the most risque thing or this or that. Um, and their publicist found out about the stories and thought it would be nice to give some credit. So without announcing the name of the author, they read one part of one of the stories to the comedian on live television to get their opinion on it.
Oh my goodness.
And the very shy and sensitive 20-something thought her world had ended because they tried to use something that she
Oh
made
no.
for happiness against that person.
That's
And they took it
horrible.
with a grain of salt and rolled with it and made a joke out of it.
Oh, that
But
sucks.
yeah, it did.
And yeah, and that's another thing that like kind of frustrates me about mainstreaming fanfic, right? Is that there is less of a barrier between fanfic writers and the people who are creating the source material and the
Hmm.
actors that are bringing the characters to life, right? And I've seen that play out at conventions and on like talk shows and stuff where people think it's funny, like, oh, let me show this actor like a piece of fanfic that someone wrote about their character. And I think that that's just absolutely like crass and rude. And it's just like, first of all, you shouldn't expose the actor to that. It's awkward and it's mortifying for the people who write the fanfic. And it's just like, um, that's why like I'm very like vocally against stuff like that at conventions because I've been to conventions where they're like, "Oh, let's pull up fanfic from AO3 and read it out loud." And it's like, "No, never. Absolutely not." If you want to do dramatic readings of fanfic, you have people bring their own work and
Exactly.
read their own work. That way they can consent to it.
I mean, you don't do
Yeah.
that
And I
even
am
with
so sorry that
published
happened.
mainstream authors. If you wouldn't do it to a public mainstream author, why are you doing it to a volunteer author?
And it's
Hmm.
because unfortunately there still are a lot of people out there that think fanfic is ridiculous and something to be mocked. And a lot of that is rooted in sexism because
Hmm.
fanfic is a chiefly like female driven thing.
Yeah.
And so it's something that silly little girls do, you know.
Hmm.
And so people just are very inconsiderate about it.
Yeah.
Reason
And
532
But
to hate humans, except for the ones who are here.
but the fan fiction realm has grown so much, and it wouldn't be considered. It happened to me. I was the author, and
Oh,
um, but now how fan fiction is looked at, it has a lot more respect associated with it.
yeah.
I know like for me as a writer, fanfic is a great way for me to work on dialogue and character interactions. And just really like focus on those things without having to worry about the world building and
Hmm.
other like complicated mechanics. And so it's just it's nice. It's just kind of fun to be able to like see if I can write in a different character's voice.
Exactly. And make things come true that they couldn't because they had to end a season or
Right.
the offer passed or different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's what happened to the Battlestar after. And yeah, I mean, it was a way to see what could happen next, what would happen if worlds collided, what would happen if these characters from these different shows that aren't in the same universe were in the same universe.
Hmm. Like
And
I'm
go ahead.
oh sorry, I've got like two fanfics that are like in progress that I haven't posted.
Ooh,
And
do tell if you
one,
want to.
I'm happy to. One is a very self-indulgent Garrick and Bashir fic that's kind of continuing off of like the Our Man Bashir
Yeah.
episode. Because I am a huge spy fiction fan. I love spy fiction. And it's like I feel like, Garrick actually like being a spy. Um, like of course he thinks James Bond is ridiculous because James Bond is ridiculous. And so I was just like, I wonder how Garrick would react to reading like a John le Carre novel. That's a much more like realistic and just like very kind of dark look at espionage, right? Um, and like I've just kind of taken the whole premise of like Garrick and Bashir love to have their little lunch dates and share books with each other and stuff, and kind of have gone from that and like just having fun with that. And it's very self-indulgent for me because it's just a lot of like very specific things that I love.
It's
And my
awesome.
other one is like a Star Wars like alternate universe fic about like, so my favorite Star Wars character is Eli Vanto. He's in two Thrawn novels. Just two novels. That's all he's been in the Star Wars universe. And he's like Thrawn's personal aide. And
Wow.
he's just my absolute favorite Star Wars character. And I hate that he's an Imperial character because he's so sweet. And so I was
There's
like,
two
I
different
want to
things
write a
about
fic
that.
where I know, I was like, I want to write a fic where he defects to the Rebel Alliance. And it's like a Rebels crossover. So that's a whole thing I'm working on. And I'm like, I have written 20,000 words.
Oh, that's wonderful.
That's
Oh.
amazing. That's absolutely amazing.
So yeah, that's the type of stuff I write.
I'd like to read that when you're done, if I
Yeah.
may.
So we have filled the time.
We have. And it is
Yay.
almost story
It
time.
is. So the next
I
segment that we're
still
going to
don't know what
do
Pamela's reading.
is on the diagonal found a in the public domain Philip K. Dick story to recommend. It has a really weird ending that he warned me of, and I'm still trying to figure out how to voice it in my head. And that's why I want to do it. Is there's a challenge? There is a challenge.
We
Um,
have a oh my God, my brain. We have a fundraising update
we are at
if you
five
want to hit refresh.
thousand $517.
Yay.
It is absolutely amazing. Um, Thank you
Oh,
for doing what you could, Simply Huffy, and thank you to
Oh, thank you
everyone
so
else who's
much.
given. All of you,
Every dollar,
yeah,
literally, like if all you can give is $1, if you can't give money, share our stuff. Like
yeah.
I really want y'all to take care of yourselves first. I know this economy
Wear your
sucks
mask
right now.
first.
And I like this is my day job. I'm able to get a paycheck every 2 weeks because of y'all. And I would not be able to sleep at night if I knew that
Yeah.
that money was, you know, like I want y'all to be able to take care of yourselves. It's like if y'all are like funding my paycheck and struggling to pay your rent, like don't do that, please.
And and story time is one of our traditions around here where uh when we have everyone here, we actually will put on animal onesies. Um the what is it? I lost the word. Kugurumi?
Cthulhu? Kigurumi.
That
I
word.
thought you were trying to talk about Annie's Cthulhu
A
Kigurumi,
No,
which
no,
is
no, no.
hard to
I just
say.
lost
thing,
the word.
amigurumi.
That's crocheting. Um,
Yeah.
and so we don't have that this year. It's a smaller group. Um, so I'm going to read this story that has been found, and then we're going to call it an evening, and everything will restart in the morning. And thank you, Simply Huffy. Just yeah, it's
Thank you so much.
And
um
I flipped over just in time to see Mako Waka's bits drop out of the rocket. So thank
we
you
are
as
now
well.
at 5,555, which is a palindrome. Okay.
Yes.
Sorry,
Yes.
all
We got the
palindromes are going to get that
palindrome.
reaction. You
Yes.
guys are all
Pamela loves
absolutely
palindromes.
amazing, and the palindromes are amazing. And
Yes. Thank you.
if we do this for 2 days in a row, Allie gets a better production computer, so I won't get the
Yes.
"I don't know why it isn't rendered yet" messages.
Yes. Like me having a breakdown because my computer overheated like an hour before go live.
It's true. It's true.
So it's yeah,
Happens.
yeah. It's I need to take a picture of it when it's acting up sometimes so y'all can see like the cold packs and the fans and just the ridiculous setup. Like I have it sitting on a milk crate, like a upside down milk crate,
Yeah,
and I'll stick a fan in the milk crate pointed up at the laptop and then put cold packs on it.
that's hilarious. It's
So I have
absolutely
this whole
hilarious.
like just absolutely crazy cooling setup that just I don't know. I would love to have a new production computer. And if we hit $10,000, I can get one.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Mhm.
All right. So, before we go, what are the key search terms you would recommend to find the fiction that you think is most interesting to read today?
Oh God, I'm gonna just tell on myself here. Um, oh God, it really depends. I read a lot of Star Wars. I read a lot of um Thrawn Eli Vanto slash. I'll just go ahead and say it. So that's my thing. And that stuff,
Nice.
it's really good. There's a lot of like really well written, really heartfelt stuff there.
Okay. For me, it would be River Song specifically,
Yeah.
or Doctor Who in general. Um, but that one that our intro was talking about with Willow and Abby sounds really good.
I
Yeah.
know. I
I'm gonna
want to
have to
read that.
search for that one.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
Yeah. The stuff I've been enjoying lately are I because I'm on a Star Wars kick, and I have been for the past 4 months, and I still haven't left the Star Wars kick. There have been some cool Star Wars what if. So like, what if Vader hadn't died over Endor and had instead gone to trial, or what
ooh.
ifs, and then changing who raised Luke. So those are a lot of fun. That's what I've been reading
I
lately.
read one that was like, what if Leia was the chosen one instead of Luke?
There's like so many of
Oh, that
those,
would be
so
And
good.
many of
I
those.
love that. And I'm just
Yeah,
like, yes, yes.
yeah. There's
'Cause I mean,
even
she's a badass.
um there's in it's canon in from a certain point of view in the Star Wars anthology of a certain point of view where Yoda thought that Leia was the one that should be trained. Yeah, he did not want
I
to
mean,
train
she,
Luke. He
Wow.
saw Luke as everything that Vader was. And so, yeah, yeah. Anyways, I'm going to leave everyone with that set of thoughts and flip the room for story time. Let me make sure I hit
oh,
all the mute buttons, all of them.
thank you for the fanfic discussion. Like,
It
this
was
has been
excellent.
awesome.
It was absolutely
Yes,
excellent.
thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Veronica.
All right, and I'm going to transition, and I will see all of you once I flip the room.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.